Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a bonus video because this is racking my brain and I want the internet's input. Now, first off, if you're a regular here, don't worry. This is not the regularly scheduled Friday upload. I still have one coming out later, depending on whenever this uploads. Maybe this goes up after. I don't know. Either way, this isn't the regular upload, but I am at a loss, kind of. I think a lot of us that like Tyranids have looked at the detachments and really want Synaptic Nexus to work in one way or another. Um, so that's not even. I don't think that's unfair to say that we've all looked at it at least one point and been, that should be kind of good. And as you can see, this is reported as having a win with Synaptic Nexus and the weekend that this went up, right? So it should be good, right? But here's the other thing. I can't find anywhere else that has said there is a win with Synaptic Nexus. Uh, Not here. As far as also, props to them, Goo and Hammer, for updating the website. This does look cooler. I personally still would prefer if it was not, sorted out by detachment, but still like just straight across for dates. But that's just me. This still looks cool. Um, and even going over to Stat Check, with it being last updated a little bit over a week ago, it doesn't have a win with Synaptic Nexus. I still can't find where this mythical win is, but I do know two things. Speaking of Stat Check, I'll say real quick. I know that Ennis, now I'm like super self conscious about it because somebody said like you're saying it with a Z to somebody streaming an event, and I was just like, do I do that? I think I don't do that, but also I obviously have a lisp, as you've probably heard. So, sorry, NS. I really hope I'm not doing that. Either way, I know that they're running Synaptic Nexus. Now I'm just conscious about everything. Synaptic Nexus for the WTC, and I believe I don't have BCP. I'm not paying for it. I'm sorry. Um, I haven't seen the list. I believe I've been told that there's Molochs in it, and best of luck to them. But then it comes to the question: is that just for teams, or does it have play in singles? And to that extent, we'll probably see. I'm assuming Ennis will probably say somewhere on Stat Check if it does well, if he can take it to singles. We'll see about that one. The only other list that I know that has quote unquote results for Synaptic Nexus is how everybody was losing their minds about the triple Norn emissary or triple Norns, because I think it was 2-in-1 assimilator, or was it just triple Norns? I don't remember. And I believe the person behind that was Into the Hive Mind. But I should also point out the thing that also um, is relevant is the fact that apparently, upon looking later after the event, was 80 points over by having an additional. It was either like an additional Death Leap or a Parasite. I can't remember. So not to discredit like the innovation on the list, but just looking at Tacoma, if some things are a little bit off, apparently that could be big. And I don't know how big of a part 80 points extra is. I remember looking back in the comments, and I believe they said that the score was just too far out for it to make a difference. But so was Tacoma, where you had friggin' the orcs just curb stomping, but it's just like, oh well, it's T12 and gas can go in T12. So like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not here to be like, send them to the brig or anything. I really think that triple Nord. Personally, I think the Norns are slightly better than people think, because I think everybody wants to make them like close to F and shit. But I think they're better than that. I'm not. I'm. They do still need to come down in points for them to be like efficient for the points. That's just, especially the assimilator. There's no reason the one without a invuln and less volume of attacks, technically, just because it quote unquote does more damage, should be the higher one. I don't know, but yeah, the triple Norn list does seem cool. And then I was having this discussion with somebody that unfortunately was a victim to my rambling. Is the fact that with Norns, I don't I don't rate Synaptic Nexus too highly, and that's pretty much where we're going with this video. I don't think that the way that it's played a lot of the time is worth it, if I'm being honest. With Synaptic Nexus, there's two big things that people really enjoy, and that's the stratagems for Reinforced Hive Node. Okay, I guess I should say three: Smothering Shadow and Irresistible Will. Reinforced Hive Node with the triple Norn list is just like, yeah, you can once per turn, Armor of Contempt one of your big monsters like a Maliceptor, one of the Norns, one of the Maliceptors, one of the Norns, and it kind of stops there. Like, are you going to put it on the Turvagon with -1 to damage that you put Synaptic Control on? You can, but do you care about Turvy being around that long? You could do it on a Hive Tyrant, sure. Is it worth it? Who knows? So I guess Reinforced Hive Node is good for the assimilator, and that's cool. And you can also, make sure that with imperative dominance. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on with the drivers around me today. Um, but with imperative dominance, you can make sure that always has a 5-up invuln. That's cool. But you don't really benefit from the +1 to hit in melee because you're already hitting on 2s. Now, hey, if there's something that comes into play, go for it. And the +1 to advance and charge, also cool. It is what it is. People like Smothering Shadow for Battle Shock, and I've talked about how I don't think that this is the way to do it. People want to make this the Battle Shock detachment, but this detachment doesn't give you more ways to Battle Shock. It just tells you that if it happens, you can make it a little bit easier for that Battle Shock to trigger, but that's it. Besides this one enhancement, there's no way of triggering more test to trigger this. If I want to play with Battle Shock, I should be in Vanguard or Crusher, where they have a stratagem to make the test happen. Right? Like, that's just me and my thinking. If I would like to play in the Battle Shock, I'm not going to make my whole army do Battle Shock test things for the one enhancement that's 15 points to reduce leadership by 1, and then still have to spend a stratagem, a CP on a stratagem, to possibly get grenades. Like, that just doesn't seem worth it to me, if that's the battle plan at hand. And then you also have Irresistible Will, which is good. This is the one where it's just like, hey, I know you're already bringing Exocrines in every list. What if we just gave you a way to reroll reroll ones to hit and wound? Which, that's cool. You have your Shudo Oath of Moment. Which brings me to the other thing that annoys me about Synaptic Nexus. Everybody wants to keep putting it in, like, oh, it's like Gladius. It's like Gladius. Sure, it's like Gladius. It is like Gladius. In the sense that you only get to pick a thing to do each round, and not even quote unquote army wide. Like, that's the other thing that pisses me off about this, is that it's like in the synaptic range. Like, why couldn't it just be Tyranid units? Like, why couldn't I just make sure that I have these outside of synapse? Like, I get what you're going here for the flavor, but, well, I'll get into why I struggle with this one the most out of all of them, because it's the least straightforward one, but also the straightforward one. Because the flavor does give you a hint, but it doesn't necessarily work for us the way that it should. But going back to why I have this tab open, it still gives you the same, oh, you get to pick one of 3 buffs for your army wide, and you get to have a detachment rule for 3 out of the 5 turns. Like, I get it. And that's not why I'm going to say that this is a detachment that I think is lackluster. And you go, how could you say that? Crusher was previously butt cheeks, and hey, did you forget that assimilation swarm still exists? Honestly, I still believe in those for various reasons, but I don't like the ones where it's just like, okay, so all right, turn 4. I just guess I don't have a rule. Now, to the credit of Tyranids, you technically do have a chance at having a turn 4. Or you could have a super go turn. Because you still have Shadow in the Warp. So where are we at? Yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't need to go here, but we all know what it does. You still have a chance of making everybody take a battle shock test. And you go, see that that's synergistic with Synaptic Nexus. It's just like you can do that. That's your army rule. If you trigger that and then make again just one person, you can only do it once per phase, right? Sure, I blew my load to make it so that somebody could take upwards to 6 mortal wounds. That's good damage. It's grenades. But why are we working so fucking hard for grenades over here? Why are we doing this to ourselves? So that's the mini rant about why I don't like I shouldn't even say I don't like it. I just wish that there were some things that were a little bit different about Synaptic Nexus. And the thing that I want to pivot on from this is that Synaptic Nexus, you go, why do you have Orcs tab open? Well, it it's not Gladius. It's not Gladius. It is a shittier WoW. It's a shittier WoW. When you look at that, models from your army with this ability have a 5-up invulnerable save. You know how Orcs just get to be Super Saiyan for 1 turn? Tyranids get to be like Kai. I can't even say Kaioken, but like they get a little bit better for 3 turns, and it's all parts of the WoW. Like that's the thing that frustrates me too. You just gave us 1/3 of a WoW each turn. Models from your army have a 5-up invulnerable save. Oh, would you look at that? Models in this unit have a 5-up invulnerable save. Okay, cool. Something for better in melee for a turn. Add 1 to the strength and attack characteristics of melee weapons equipped by models by your army from this ability. What if we just tweak it, change it a little bit so that the homework doesn't seem too similar? Oh, +1 to hit in melee. Like, why isn't this just +1 to hit overall? Like, why isn't it just +1 to hit army wide? Right? Like, why did we make it melee? And that's the other thing that frustrates me about Tyranids. Should have had that open, but I'm sorry. But just going back to this. And then, units from your army with this ability are eligible to declare a charge in the turn in which they advance. Well, what if we just made it so that they get +1 to advance and charge rolls? I mean, thank goodness that means that my Hormagaunts have an additional 2 inches to work with for the turn, but you know, hey, like I don't. And hold on, it's while they're within synapse range, so make sure that you brought a Neurotyrant or something so that they don't fall out of synapse range on the unit to use that. And I get it. The flavor is like the leader beast of these swarms act as conduits to the will of the hive mind. Irresistible imperatives lash out for them like whips that drive lesser bioforms to hurl themselves at the prey, to fight on through fatal wounds, or to attack with redoubled savagery. That's so sweet and nice, and I understand what they're going for here. Because not only did they give us the restrictions of Gladius, a shittier WoW, they made it so that for all of this to work, you have to play Talons of the Emperor. What do you mean, monster? What, mister, what are you talking about? Your units get effects by being up next to other units. Instead of being sisters, it's synapse units, and then everybody around that shit gets the abilities. So, you have to bring, but now you are playing Tyranid, so you're already bringing synapse, but it's crazy that for 3 turns, 1 buff per turn. You get 1 shittier Wah, 1/3 of a Wah, and you have to play in the style of Talons of the Emperor. That's a lot for very little. Very little. And then you go, okay, well, at least, like, it points to things. Obviously, you're supposed to use your Synapse characters that don't want to be hit, that are probably firing away to make sure that the melee units can do the job because they can advance and charge, have a 5-up invulnerable save, or add 1 to the hit roll. And that sounds really good in theory. Don't get me wrong, that really does. But Synapse is 6 inches, and you go, well, just use the command point to make it 9. Just use the command point to make it 9. No, the fuck, I'm not doing that. Just bring the Neuro Tyrant. It's fine. Just bring Swarmy. He already has a 9. It's just like, why am I bringing specific things? Like, for example, Neuro Tyrant, you go, is a staple in Synaptic Nexus. You can give it +1 strength and AP for its attack for 10 points. It's just like, why did they make an enhancement that only works for 1 character in the Codex? Because you can't put it on Swarmlord because he's epic. Why? And the only other person with a psychic attack does damage is Neurotyrant. Why couldn't you just make Neurotyrant 6/2/2? Like, I get it. You should probably work for that data, that price point. That data sheet, I guess, 6/2/2. Like, the only other one to have that is Turvy. I'm sorry, not Turvy, Tyrannofex. So it's just like, alright, I guess. Sure, I'll take 10 points. But if you're only going to make it cost 10 points, how about you just make a Neurotyrant 115 and call it a day, and we get the Flamer? That way I can actually think about taking something like Psychostatic Disruption, so there's no 12-inch deep, there's no deep strike within 12 inches of me and shit like that. -1, this is a good one. And Dirge Heart of Kharas, also okay. It's alright. But then again, it only goes on Psyker. This only goes on Synapse. And it's just like, okay, who am I putting this on? It's either a Tyrant or Turvy. Because there's pretty much no reason to put it on anybody else. That's fine. Who am I putting this on? Parasite now, because you can. Broodlord, maybe, because you can. Tyrant, if it's at the points or something like that. This one has flexibility, but again, how much of a fuck do I care about leadership when I still have to find a way to trigger it? Like, I don't. That's what it annoys me about Synaptic Nexus, is that after kind of racking my brain after everything, you come to realize you have a shittier Gladius Task Force, Kalyan, Monka situation. It's 1/3 of a Y at a time, and the Y is just straight up, it's better. Like, if you were like, hey, I'd rather take +1 to strength and attacks versus +1 to hit in melee. Like, I'd rather have higher strength and attacks for the melee. And I understand that we just got the +1 to strength and melee for Synapse range. But, like, for 1 turn, making it 2? Fuck yeah! And more attacks? Please do. Please do. And instead of +1 to advance and charges, now, if you're going to tell me that I'm supposed to throw melee people in the front and Synapse in the back, I want them to be able to advance and charge. Versus +1 to advance or charge. And I understand that's a little balance there, that you might, in certain situations, take it. You have to advance so that the Synapse that you were throwing out there to keep track of the melee unit can still get there. That's fine, I guess. And then you save the charge rolls for the melee. I understand that one. That one I'm not as low on, I guess. But, because if you don't bring a Hive Tyrant, you're kind of wasting the advance. Because, yeah, you get the assault within 6 inches of him, but everybody else, you're not making use of it. And then we go on to the units that we have available. The ones that want the 5-up invulnerable save are who? Like, don't get me wrong, it's good if you can put it on your T-Fex. Good to put it on the assimilator. But truly, after a certain point, what? Where are you put? How much are you putting on it? Because if you put it on a T-Fex who can already blink a damage, that means that it's only useful once somebody has about AP 5. Right? Let me make sure. Yeah, 2-up save. 5 takes it to 7. Usually has cover. Would take it to 6. But if that means that if you gave them the 5-up invulnerable, you're worried about when somebody has AP 5, because if they only have AP 4, saving on the 6 and you probably have cover, bringing it down to a 4. Bringing it back down to a 5. So if you want to just throw your T-Fex out into the open for one round, sure, I guess that AP4 does come in handy for the 5-up invulnerable save. Or you go, alright, I'm not throwing it on things that big. I'm throwing it on my Tyranid warriors. My Tyranid warriors. That's fine and dandy. For one turn, your slow-ass warriors have a 5-up invulnerable save. That's okay, that's cute. That's kind of cute. But they're Synapse, and they have a save of 4. So once again, if they had AP2, you probably are just better off using Reinforced Hive Node to keep them alive if that's what you're really doing. And then cover, probably. Like, again, that's where you probably go into that, where it's just like, are you really banking on making 5-ups? 5-ups are high. 5-ups are high. Okay? A 33% chance to make that roll. How come I can't get a 50% chance? Like a 4-up invulnerable save for one turn? That's a much more appealing than a 5-up. That's just me on that one. So, okay, let's try something else. Where else would we put this on? Because the other thing that bothers me about this detachment is what you're trying to put things on. Reinforced Hive Node? Sure, I can reduce the AP by 1 for my Maliceptor, who saves on a 3 and has a 4-up invulnerable save. So, where am I at in the game where I'm not just taking the 4 if there's AP? Because if I am out in the open, it's an AP of 1. Am I spending the CP to make me save on 3s? Because anything with 1 AP probably isn't that much of a threat to my Maliceptor. And then if it's AP1 and I'm doing the thing that I probably should do, have a little bit of cover somehow, some way, guess what? It's a 3 again. You save it on a 3. He already has a -1 to hit and possibly a -1 to wound within 6 inches around him and things like that. So, okay, what am I using this on? Am I using just Hive Node on an assimilator? Because again, the Emissary has a 4-up, and Tyrant has a 4-up, and Turvy. All right, sure, I'm using it on Turvy. Fine, you got me. I'm using it on Turvy. I'm not wasting that on a Prime. On a Prime's unit, probably more often than not. And I don't really care about that 5-up either, because a 5-up is still pretty high to fucking fail. So, okay, go on. I've already rambled about why I don't like grenades. I've talked about Reinforced Hive Node. This is just utter shit. Like, this should double the range. It shouldn't be 9. Make that shit 12 for somebody. I'm not spending a CP to be just a little bit like, no, come on, make that 12. Imperative Dominance is cool when I want to make sure that my Tyrant effects, I guess, has a 5-up. And I want to throw them out in the open. Cool. Awesome. Irresistible Will. This is the one that you're all here for, probably. Like, out of everything, this is the one you're here for. You reroll hits and wound rolls of 1 with the extra stipulation, but that's the one you're here for. And override instincts, fallback, shoot and charge. Yeah, and you go, well, this is good for your Neurotyrant Zoanthrope block. But now they just have big guns never tire. So you could just kill them instead of spending a CP for it. Or who else? I mean, I will say I do like this one because sorry, I'm not gonna be catty, but contrary to some beliefs of how good something like a Maliceptor is, it still has blast. Um, so if you want to make it not suck once it gets tagged, 1 CP, fall back, shoot, charge. All right, cool. Deed is done. So we'll take that. But then you go, nobody really wants any of this shit. The things that want +1 to the hit roll is very limited to, okay, I like it on One Eye's unit. That's a good one. And you get reroll hits. Cool, awesome. One Eye can fucking tear ass. The Warriors Prime block, awesome. Doesn't help Tyranid Prime because hitting on 2s. But good. And it's cute. You can put it on like a horror specs, who will also trigger Battle Shock here. So look at the specs. And Screamer Killer, realistically. That's also good. Trigon, here's the problem. There's a chance that as using the fucking Trigon with Deep Strike, you might not be in range to use it. Because again, you still have to be probably around 6 inches next to somebody. Now again, you could Neuro Tyrant and you have to Trigon Rapid Ingress 1 turn. That way you can move to get to a point to throw out, or not even move, but Rapid Ingress to a point that your Trigon still has a movement phase to charge while being in range of the Neurotyrant to get the Neuraloid. Fine, but again, that's 1 CP for a lot for a little. Yeah, I guess I'll take 12 attacks hitting on 2s, 9, 2, 3. That's fine, don't get me wrong. I like that, but you're just probably out of range if you're using your Trigon. That's probably what's happening there. So, and then you go, what other melee units are you using it on that aren't already hitting on 2s? Brood Lord and Gene Stealer hit on 2s. Leaper hits on 2s. Tyrant hit on 2s. Parasite even hits on 2s. Hormagaunts, I'm not actually that invested in their melee. But hey, if they are within range in it, you can fuck some people up on strength 4. You can definitely hit a squad on 4s with 30 attacks, or maybe 60. That could do something. That definitely is weight of attacks that you might take into account. Termagants aren't doing shit. Tyrannicide not doing shit. Barbgun's not doing shit. Nope. Already talked about it. Not really. Already on 2s. Nope. Talked about it. Nope. Hitting on 2s. Nope. Fine. Same problem as the Trigon. Nope. Hits on 2s. Let me double check. Yep, hits on 2s. Hits on 2s. Sure, your Psychophage can't hit on 2s for a turn. Oh, wait. What's that? Already has a thing where you can just add 1 to the hit roll. So, my bad. Take that back. Nope. Sure, but same problem as the Trigon and Moloch. Nope. Talked about. Nope. Sure, fuck it. If you're really trying to bring the Toxic Ring. Sure. Talked about it. This is the one it works for. Fuck, you're bringing these. No. These hit on 3s or 2s. Sure, fine. I guess Leapers. No. Like, what are you using this for? What are you using that +1 hit roll for? And then the advance and charge I've already talked about. So it's just, I want Synaptic Nexus to be better. because it clearly has chances to be there, right? Like, how many people was this? How many games played out of this data? Come on now. 163 games played. 30 players. And yeah, 30 players. None of them 4-0 start. None of them wins. Worse than a simulation swarm, but guess what? Only 3 people played that. 10 times the amount of people played Synaptic Nexus, and it just doesn't get anywhere. Because there's nothing to do with this. And don't get me wrong, I still want to like it. But it needs to loosen up somewhere. Somewhere needs to be looser or a little bit worth the effort. So, yeah, this is just a rant about how... I'll just summarize what the point I was making is that for Synaptic Nexus, you don't have the data sheets that want the things that it gives, more often than not, without putting other things in jeopardy. Because, you know, mind you, it does give to the flavors, just like, yeah, take out the ones with brains to make the things around it worse. That's fine, especially when you get +1 to strength in melee. And then you go, alright, yeah, you have that now, so that makes all of those better, right? Not really. He was already the melee. Like, the melee threats were already melee threats. I want my shit that was not a melee threat to be worth it now. Like, even like a Hormigant. It's now string 4. So, yeah, it could fucking eat a space elf. But, you know, can we make it so that for one turn my Hormigants are T5? I'm sorry, strength 5? So that it's wounding on 3s? Because they're definitely getting shot by shit that wounds them on 3s, so, you know. Let's make it a little bit scary. Shit, I'll even take if you copied from Assimilation Swarm, you just, like, everything in range gets lethal hits in melee. I'll take that. I'll take that every day of the week. You know, so hey. Why are we playing Gladius, Shittier Wa of the Emperor? Talons of the Wa Force. There we go. Sure. That's what Synaptic Nexus is, and that's why I just want it to be better. I promise I don't want to do too many, like, this is bad, rage situations, because honestly, it doesn't need it. We're okay. But, like, we're okay because of 1 stat sheet, 2 stat sheets. Yeah, we're okay because pretty much, like, 2 stat sheets. If you do anything to these 2, Army kind of eats shit a little bit because you don't have anything to replace them, and they're just okay. Like, the Exocrine is still T10 with a 3-up save. So, any decent anti-tank and no invuln just kills it. And it only has a max of, I should say a max of, but it, like, without blast being accounted for, 9 shots. So, you know. Hey, Malice up there. Same amount of shots. Both of them are blast, so once you touch them in melee, you kind of just stop them from doing whatever they wanted to do. Beyond that, you know, who benefits from this? The people that would benefit from this don't really benefit too tough. Like, even if I want to give, again, a 5-up save, a 5-up, a 2-up save to make it a 5-up invulnerable save, I guess, but fuck, they both have feel no pains. Is it worth it? So, if somebody can find something that isn't, and then that's my last point where I have another reason why I made this video. My problem with using the Norn emissaries or the Norns in general to make them like, oh my gosh, you can make them Armor of Contempt to make 3 Norns much harder to get rid of. What if I made the characters that want to stand on objective to get OC-15 regenerate because I probably control that fucking objective, right? Like, what if I just put them in a simulation swarm? Huh? And then you're really not getting rid of them. You almost have a Catan there. Almost. Not quite, but almost. You know, you're not having any damage or anything too crazy. But for the points, you're almost there. Right? Or, on the flip side, on the other end of the spectrum, what if, after everybody invested all their resources to get rid of your shit, you made it auto-explode? OC-15 is a lot to overcome. So, if you finally put on, like, 20 battle line units onto the objective to just flip it, right? They didn't get killed or something like that, or you do get killed, what if you just auto-explode it for a D6 to everything around that motherfucker? And they can't hit you out of combat because you're -1 to hit, possibly -1 to wound. You know, something like that. How about that? Why can't we do that? And you could just walk away from them in this detachment, right? You could just, oh, they tried to tag you up in melee? I mean, melee, they tried to tag you up. How about you just leave? Just leave. Just leave. Just walk through them. Just go. You know? So, I just feel like if you want to talk about how the Norns are the thing that carries Synaptic Nexus, I think they're just better in other places. I know that people are like, oh my gosh, not for it. I really think you need to stop putting it in Invasion Fleet. I'm sorry. They already have a Feel No Pain, and the only thing that's in this motherfucker that's for you is the Feel No Pain. Don't think you really care about getting sustained hits on maybe 2 attacks, or lethal hits on 2 attacks. You know, shit like that. I think you just let that one go, when you could either make them do damage no matter what happens, or heal them so that they literally never go away. Or you could even use them as an offset for Unending Swarm or Vanguard Onslaught, where the shit around them are very squishy, and then all of a sudden you have a fucking stat check in your face. I just feel like Synaptic Nexus might be the worst one for them, outside of giving the Assimilator a 5-up invulnerable save. So, I just want to say, if you have any radical, groovy ideas as to why Synaptic Nexus is the bee's knees, and again, this isn't to be like, oh my gosh, it's so bad, it's so terrible. I'm sorry if it's come off like that. It really isn't that, but I've been racking my brain on why this exists the way it does. And I can't really find a justifiable reason. And if you have something that's about to make this just amazing, I want you to tell me that. And then 2 follow-up things. If you could go fucking win a tournament for me and tell me your list, that'd be fucking amazing. But also, ask yourself if the units you've put into this won't just be better somewhere else. Because the problem with Synaptic Nexus also is that you go, well, shit, for all of this, I might as well have just brought Invasion Fleet so everybody could have this buff. Right? I should have just brought Assimilation Swarm or Crusher Stampede, so my big things that I'm making reducing AP just fucking regenerate. Or explode auto and get +1 to hit and wound. Like, you know, shit like that. So, yeah, if you could do me that favor, I'd appreciate that. So, I guess I'll try not to title this something so doomer, like, oh my gosh, Synaptic Nexus is a failing by GW. You know, nothing like that. But I had to get that out and see why people, I don't know what's wrong with this. And as if you see this video Or, shit, there's a, I want to say their name is like Wednesday Night Warhammer. They've popped up one time. Fuck. Um, I watched their Synaptic Nexus video a while ago. They put one out. Um, and I like the ideas there too. I do think I'd. Let me not speak for them because that was a while ago and I might be misremembering. But the other thing that I dislike about this is you go, it's a no-brainer to put in the Neurotyrant Zoanthropes. It's just like, is it though? Is it though? They sure you can for 10 points more make the Flamer better, but they already have a 4-up invulnerable save. Do you really want them advancing without a Hive Tyrant being like right there? Like this needs to be like advance and assault. Assault advance and charge or something to make it fucking worth it. You really don't want them in melee. Sure, you can re-roll their wound rolls and hit rolls. That's cool. That's awesome. Fallback, shoot, and charge. You have big guns never tire now. You're again 4-up invuln, so you're not doing that. And if you're close enough to do this one, I guess maybe you get double fucking shock damage off. But that's not to say that I'm speaking that you shouldn't bring the Neurotyrant Zoanthropes into this one, but it's not as high up as I think people want to make it. I think you quickly realize you're trying to make Synaptic Nexus work as opposed to the Zoe's the brain tank is really good here because again, their infantry models I could just respawn them in Assimilation Swarm, and then if a battle shock happens around them, they heal again. Like I could just do that, right? I could still keep them in the back, not put them in danger, and for 24 inches, I could just keep bringing them back, right? Or Invasion Fleet, I can give them sustained or lethals on their blast attack, right? Like again, there's just is it that Synaptic Nexus is so good for the Zoes, or are the Zoes and the Neurotyrant so good for Synaptic Nexus because you ain't got shit else? But okay, I promise I'll stop. I'll stop there because I've said that I'll stop several times. But yeah, tell me how to run this fucking detachment. Tell me what's working for you in this detachment, if anything. And hey, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.